What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
Hey, you about to talk some Canelo Plant last night? About to get into that. We just got a Hernandez Terrell. So
okay. Yeah, go ahead, Shane. What are initial thoughts on Canelo's performance last night?
I thought it was a great performance. Obviously, he got the knockout at the end. I think this has kind of been his pattern. Kind of fill the guy out in the beginning, let him burn out some energy. Invest to the body, and then when it comes to the later part of that the fight, he puts on the hard punches and gets him out of there. And that's what it kind of proved to be true yesterday. I think Caleb Plant boxed very, very well early. He did some really cool things in there, and it looked like he might have some success if he could sustain that. And then we saw, it kind of, he lost steam going into the middle part of the fight. And then the last part, unfortunately he got clipped with a good shot and couldn't recover. So, and that was it.
If I know one thing about Canelo fights, it's that I know the scorecards are going to be crazy. Because I saw a lot of people on Twitter that were like, I had Plant, like people I trust very much their boxing IQ, they had Plant wide. That they had Plant by a few rounds. And I'm like, and I thought Canelo was maybe up by 1, maybe 2, probably right around that range. But then the scorecard has him winning 6 straight rounds on the unofficial scorecard. What did you have, Zaitel? What did you have? Because you're making faces over there.
I had it 8 rounds to 2 for Canelo.
Did you really?
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, I don't look that stupid. Wait till I say what I said.
No, I think that's. I don't know. I saw somebody that the way they broke it down was very concise. They said, so wait, Canelo can pressure his way into winning rounds, but when Triple G fought him, he couldn't pressure his way into winning rounds. So it's just because Caleb was clearly outboxing him. So, I mean, what was he getting credit for? Landing punches on gloves?
No. I felt a lot of his shots, he was landing to the body. And I felt a lot of his shots, Canelo punches so hard that he can connect partially, and it does more damage than Caleb landing a good, clean jab. I just felt every round he was landing the harder shots and controlling the fight. It was, you mentioned earlier, like how every round just started to play out the same in Vargas, Ray Vargas's fight. And that's just what I saw. It was like, okay, Caleb's, he's moving nice, right to left, left to right. He's boxing well. He's using his levels with his jab. But Canelo's hurting him every time he gets him to the body. He's just landing the harder, more meaningful punches, the more damaging punches. I thought that a lot through the Kovalev fight. And the inevitability of the KO is connected to that. The KO is inevitable because he's winning. And these rounds I think a lot of people expected Plant to get blown out. And I knew he was going to do better than Billy Joe Saunders. So I'm not grading him on this curve everyone else is grading him on. I'm not surprised that he's able to be competitive in there, but I don't actually think he's winning most of these rounds. That's just how I saw it. I actually thought the 6-4 scorecard was too close, but I know.
Did you really?
Yeah, that's my opinion. But
that was actually my score, Shawn, 6-4. I just felt like the rounds, it looked like on paper, as you watch, it looks like Caleb is killing him, but I felt it was all tap shots. And I felt like when Canelo landed, he was landing something big. And at times, when he would counter Canelo, Caleb was getting some stuff off. And rounds like that, I would give him a round. But I just felt like it wasn't big enough stuff to gather his respect from Canelo because he just kept coming. And then I always said once he got relaxed and felt like, oh, this is not bad as I thought it was. He got tired, but his level of concentration dropped a tad bit. That tad bit is all it took.
How'd you have it scored, Shane?
I had it scored 6-4, like Ant, for Canelo. I agree with you. I just there might be a little bit of bias, right? Me and Caleb had the same trainer at one point in time. I understand that type of boxing. And like, I get it. So like, like to me, when I was watching it, it was like to the game plan. That was what they were trying to do and what they were like trying to be effective at. And at times he was being very effective. But like you said, when Canelo lands a shot, it does a lot of damage. It's like shooting with a 22 and then somebody shooting a shotgun, right? You're like, yeah, that shotgun did way more damage. He might have shot with, a whole bunch of times with the 22, but that shotgun did way more damage. I think the shotgun won. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like that. You know what I mean? And Canelo's fights kind of remind me of Manny Pacquiao. I remember being at a Manny Pacquiao fight, and like Manny Pacquiao's getting beat up. He faints, and then the whole crowd goes wild. Oh my God, he fainted. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa. You know what I mean? The judges are human. You know what I mean? They see that. They see the electricity. They see the energy that person brings when they bring it, and they're like, wow, we need that. So, in order for Plant to have really won, he would have had to do a little bit more, even to get something like a split decision. You know what I mean? Like, from what it was, even where it was going and how the scorecards were, he would have had to knock Canelo down and win all those rounds very, very decisively in order to have gotten like a split decision. You know what I mean? So it was pretty relevant. It was understandable where the fight was actually going. But we did get the knockout from Canelo because that's kind of like to his game plan as well. Tire you out, and waste to the last minute to put on the real heavy stuff and gets you out of there. And
I think I agree that there was almost an inevitability to it, like I mentioned. But looking at the scoring yesterday, I mentioned this last week, but I don't know how you can beat Canelo then. I have no clue. Not to say that somebody can't beat him. Like, I don't think David Benavidez or one of those guys could beat him, but like the crisp and clean punching I saw from Caleb, and he's not winning any of those rounds. I'm just like, so Canelo can punch him. So the punches can be slanted heavily towards Caleb. Canelo can land partially, but because he threw it harder, he just wins the round. And that's kind of how it is.
Hey, Carson, you up against it. Up against it.
And that just might be the thing where you have to have a crazy performance. Cause like, I thought if somebody told me right now that Caleb was winning that fight, I wouldn't personally disagree with them just because the defense, I think the crisper work was Caleb pretty clearly, in my opinion. Obviously Canelo made it so we didn't have to worry about the scorecards, but I just feel like looking back, I'm like, if you can box that well and win, what did the one judge have him winning, like 2 rounds? I don't know what else you can do.
And he was clear up on the scorecards with all 3 judges.
Yeah, so I'm just like, I'm glad he knocked him out, to be honest, because just based on the scorecards, because then I would have been sitting there like, really? You had him getting blown out?
Yeah.
Well, you guys know it's different too, scoring a fight live than on TV. So I am of being, some rows back watching live. So I'm sure if I watched on television, I'm going to appreciate a lot more of what Caleb Plant did.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know.
The impact of the shot is different live.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure that the impact of some of Canelo's shots last night were probably pretty like eye-opening. You know what I mean? So it's like you see that, and you see that a guy is hitting him a lot, and it's not really making him move. It's not really making him respect him. He's getting hit with these shots, and he's still coming forward. So like, if you're watching as a judge or as somebody that's there, you're like, well, like, yeah, I saw it land, but did it really like land? You know what I mean? But like on TV, you could see those like crisp shots. You just thinking like Canelo's just a beast. You know what I mean? Shoot, he did it against Golovkin. Even the second fight with Golovkin, he was walking him down, and we all know Golovkin could punch. You know what I mean? So with that being said,
to go back to that first Golovkin fight, because what you're saying makes sense, but like flip the roles, because Golovkin was walking his ass down in that first fight, wasn't affected by the punches, but still didn't get the decision. But it's almost like
Carson.
Yeah, but it's almost like Canelo fights. It's like fight night where you have like a gauge of how hurt they are, because it's like, oh well, he didn't land clean, but his health went down a little bit. So it's like, okay, it was a bigger shot than a jab, which doesn't really do much damage.
Hey Carson, it got to the point, I don't know, you guys too, Shawn and Shane. I felt it was reminded me of Gervonta Tank David versus
Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz. He just said, F it, I'm coming inside and I'm gonna hit you with something. It's to the point where Caleb wasn't putting nothing, it didn't have enough on his shots. If Caleb has some stopping power, he may have gained his respect, but who knows? This motherfucker is solid.
Yeah.
Like Triple G didn't gain his respect, so. But hell of performance by Caleb Plant, man. Hell of a performance.
Absolutely. I definitely think his stock went up. His stock went up after this fight, for sure. I think he'll be able to get respect from people. Not that he necessarily needs it, but like you can say like, hey, he did better than most of the guys that has been in there in the last 4 fights.
Bless you.
You know what I mean?
Thank you.
And it's one of those things we've talked about it with other fighters, but like losing to Canelo isn't the worst. Like nobody's like, you lost to Canelo, what a bum. It's like, oh, you lost to the best pound for pound fighter in the world. But
exactly.
What'd you think?
That loss gets us some fights we want to see though.
I want to see Caleb with some dogs. I know you mentioned that you knew Caleb was going to do better than Saunders. What did you think? Obviously, you had Canelo wide. But what did you think of Caleb's performance?
I thought he just boxed really well. I loved his movement. It was he would go, just to right to left, left to right. He wouldn't let Canelo get set most of the night. At times on the ropes, the shoulder roll worked for him. At other times, it didn't. Not everyone's Floyd Mayweather and has blessed with that ridiculous, freakish reflexes he has, So sometimes other guys get clipped doing that. But his defense was sharp. And I've always loved Caleb's jab. It's just I love how he works his levels with his jab. And again, it's for me, it's more like I knew this guy could really box. I knew this guy could fight. So I'm not as surprised that he performed as well as he did. I'm happy he made a lot of money and he made a name for himself last night. He just went up against a guy who's not just great. He's a legend. Canelo. If we're going off accomplishments, it's a good chance he's the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. But in boxing today, it's a little easier to become 3-4 division champ than it was when, Julio Cesar Chavez or Salvador Sanchez was around. But you could already easily claim that he's the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. So Caleb did his thing, and I'm happy he's able to give a good account of himself.
What's up? I'm Showtime Shawn Porter.
I'm Ant. Follow me on IG, Ant with 2 T's. Let's do it. Let's do it again.
All right. Just introduce yourself.
Okay.
And then you tell them what to do. I'm Showtime Shawn Porter.
I'm Anthony Brenagh.
Carson A. Merk. Like, subscribe, comment.
This is the Porter Way.